You're listening to the winning literary show, Off the Shelf Books Talk Radio, live with host Denise Turney, author of the books Long Walk Up, Portia, Love Pour Over Me, Spiral, Love Has Many Faces, and Rosetta's Great Hope. Turn up your dial and get ready for a blast of feature author interviews, 411 on book festivals, writing conferences, and so much more. Ready? Let's go.
Good morning, good Saturday morning. I want to say happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Yesterday was his birthday. It was also my dad's birthday yesterday, and I think Muhammad Ali was born sometime around here. So I want to say that happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day to everybody. And I want to start with this quote. This is the source of the quote is anonymous. Your limitation is only your imagination. Your limitation is only your imagination. You know what? It is hard to believe that. I was wrestling with that this morning, how we think there's something outside of us keeping us from what we want. That's a hard lesson to get, to figure out how to get to the life that you want. And speaking of that, we have a guest on deck. Going to introduce her in just a few moments, who is going to help a lot of people when you talk about looking at your life, how you want to map out your life. You check in with our source and how to get it done in this world. A lot of that path leads through college, and we know a lot of college students go into so much debt that they either can't buy a home, they have to put off things they want to do as they design their life, that they have to put it off or never do it. So we have a guest on who's going to help us with that this morning. So you all get ready. But first I want to welcome you to our Saturday, January the 16th, 2021. See, I'm already wanting to say 2021. So welcome, and to our loyal listeners who've been with us for 15. Y'all, we heading into 16 years. I want to thank you for being here with us all these years with Off the Shelf Books Talk Radio. And for those of you who are new, I got to tell you, you are listening to the Winning Book Radio Show, our podcast. I want to begin by, to our listeners, I got to tell you, a new book I just put out. It's nonfiction. I have 2 nonfiction books. Most of my books are novels. Awaken Blessings of Inner Love. 2020 is not, I mean, it really is a year that a lot of people probably will never forget. We've had harder years as humans throughout history, much harder years. But for our lifetime, it was one that going down in the record books. But it really brought to the forelight the importance of doing daily self-love techniques, not just waiting till the weekend, not just waiting until you go to a worship center, if that's you do, or you meditate. It's every day. You can't wait for a retreat or a seminar, because when something happens, and there's always things coming we don't see coming, if you haven't really been practicing self-love, it could knock you out, and you don't want that. So I encourage you to get a copy of Awakening Blessings of Inner Love. These are daily techniques. You don't have to spend any money on them to do them, and it's simple ways to practice self-love to keep yourself strong. And speaking of love, and this is a novel, if you love mystery and you value relationships, particularly a soulmate relationship between Raymond and Brenda. They meet in college, and we're going to be really digging into college later in the show. I encourage you, there's a complicated father-son relationship. There are these 5 dude friends. How often do you hear about men friends in a novel? They have this friendship that lasts a lifetime. But there's also tucked in there a murder mystery, and is one of the friends responsible? And would you cover for your friend if you knew your friend had done something? Would you cover for them? And how long would you wait for love? I'm telling you, if these things are valuable to you, I encourage you to get a copy of Love Pour Over Me. It's an ebook and in print format. If you don't see it on the shelf, just ask the clerk to get your copy of Love Pour Over Me by Denise Turney. And now, this is what you've been waiting for. Let us go and meet our very special off-the-shelf guest. And today's off-the-shelf guest is Jean O'Toole. And Jean is the co-founder of Connections One-on-One. She's a life designer, empowerment coach, public speaker, and the author of the book, Scholarship Strategies, Finding and Winning the Money You Need. This is so on time. I'm telling you, if we could just help 10 people on a day show, and if they could spread it out, maybe 100 or 1,000 people be helped. So students stop going from high school to college to debt. Scholarship strategies, finding and winning the money you need. And her expertise is in scholarships and designing a personal winning life. And over 150,000 students have attended Connections one-on-one presentations. And additionally, students have won up to $200,000 to cover college costs. You know what? Even if you can just get your college books covered, those things are expensive. And please check Jean out online at www.connections1on1.com, spelled the way it sounds, you all, CONNECTIONS. And this is not spelled out, it's just the numbers, 101.com. Connections101.com. Connections101.com. And we are absolutely honored to have Jean O'Toole with us this morning on Off the Shelf. Welcome to Off the Shelf, Jean.
Hi, Denise. It is an honor to be on your show.
Oh, thank you. We're so happy to have you. And she is on the road. She is a road runner, and she's still sticking to what she set out to do, even though she's on the road. We're happy to have her with us this morning. And you guys get ready, take notes, what you can learn, and then writing down at connections1on1.com as well, so you can go over there and stay connected to Jean O'Toole. Now, Jean, the first few questions I'm going to ask you, I ask every guest on the show, just to give our listeners backstory. I'm going back over 15 years when I started out. I used to just go right into the questions, and the listeners would email me and say, no. Let us know a little bit about the guest before you do that. So to begin, could you tell off-the-shelf listeners, Jean, where you grew up and what life was like for you growing up?
Yeah, sure, and I appreciate that the opportunity to share this. So I grew up in western Massachusetts in a very rural area. I grew up on a farm, and I was the first person in my family to go to college. I remember the years of making this plan of hoping to be the first person in my family to go to college, and my family and I, we scrambled trying to find information. We scrambled trying to find scholarships, and I got to tell you, Denise, I wish that I knew even a piece, just a piece of what I've come to know over my years of research, now being a scholarship expert and strategist. But I did find some scholarships. It took me to New York City, and I was able to intern and my way to some great professional career positions. And it allowed me actually to start speaking around the country at a young age, connecting with people. And I was fortunate to be part of a group of speakers called Making It Count Speakers. And Making It Count was a subsidiary of Monster.com. And this goes back now over a decade ago. But we had this fortunate opportunity to have conversations with literally thousands of students throughout the United States at college universities and at high school auditoriums. And, you know, I got to tell you, Denise, it didn't matter where I was traveling or where the conversation was happening. Students would always communicate that they were excited about their future, but they were also worried about how their student debt was going to impact them and their family. And that inspired me to do an enormous amount of research to ultimately put together the program and now the book that we're talking about today, Scholarship Strategies.
Wow. Now, when you were a kid, growing up in rural Massachusetts, first in the family to go to college, and I remember Munster. Munster was huge. You know, it's amazing how things come and go. MySpace is still around, but MySpace used to be enormous. All the young folks were on MySpace. Things just changed so quickly today. So all that shared. I mean, 5 years from now, you're like, okay, this thing was so hot, and now it's not anymore. But when you were a kid, what did you want to be? What did you dream of being growing up on a farm? What did you say, this is what I want to be when I grow up?
You know, I actually had the dream of becoming a talent agent. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. It's so, but I had the dream of working in TV and film and helping people, craft their careers in the entertainment industry. And, what's interesting, sometimes you don't know where the world is taking you. And it was actually in the pursuit of that goal that while I was in college, interning at different talent agencies and casting offices in New York City, that I was able to achieve that goal at a very young age of 23. And at the time, I was the youngest talent representative in New York, and I was booking people, young people, for TV, film, and Broadway. And I had this unique opportunity presented to me to travel and to help families start careers in the entertainment industry and stay away from scams. And so that's when I started traveling and speaking. And it was so rewarding that I took a step back after a few of those years. And I said, you know what? I want to help people on the larger scale. I want to have conversations with students regardless of what their career goals were going to be. And that got me curious about researching what types of opportunities were out there. That's how I found Making It Count, and the rest has been history.
Wow. You know what? And one thing, and I hadn't even looked through, I researched for the interview, and I always learn so much during the shows and during researching for each of the guest feature interviews. But when I was talking about designing your life and imagination at the beginning, I hadn't read down through the questions I was going to ask you. But that is, it one thing when your life unfolds, and I can tell you, doing off the shelf for over 15 years, how many guests, when I asked them, what did you dream of being when you were a kid? So few wanted to be what they're doing. And just something happened. As some people, it's like we had a guest on. It was an injury. She had an injury, and she's in a wheelchair, and it kind of shaped her life. Some people, they went into a job, and the person who they reported into quit, and somebody else told them, "You got to do the job now." And
wow.
And then listening to you know how you have to stay open. So because life, you start out one way and boom, you turn it in another direction. Now at night, I want to talk about this scholarships. Really, really offer as much tips and advice to people as I can, not only during the show live for our listeners who tune in via iTunes, via Blog Talk Radio. We're on so many channels, and then I promote the show afterwards. But this is a topic I really hope people gain a lot of value and save money from. So just to start to paint a picture for our listeners, in 1920, undergraduate tuition at Wharton, which is is a part of the University of Pennsylvania, and this is according to the University of Pennsylvania archive records. In 1920, an undergraduate tuition at Wharton was $250. Now today, yes, today it was a little over 100 years ago. Today, tuition at the school is $74,500 just for the first year. Yeah. That's an increase of almost 300 times what it was in 1920. And on the other hand, housing prices have risen from about $2,450 for 5 rooms and a bath to $246,000 in 2020. Oh my God! So the first question I want to ask you is, why has the cost of tuition risen so much?
Yeah, it's a really important question, and thanks for also sharing with the listeners the perspective of how much tuition has jumped over time. And I do believe that our conversation today, Denise, is going to touch families, and that's why we are going to give a lot of strategy and value today. During our conversation, I'm hoping that families who are tuning in will be able to literally change their situation with what we're going to talk about today. The reason why tuition has climbed so drastically is because there has not been a stop from the general public to say tuition is too high, we will not send our child there. Everybody wants the best for their son or daughter. And if the best has just raised their prices again, the family, unfortunately, is having to scramble to try to make that dream a reality for their son or daughter. And unfortunately, these schools, there has not been a single reason for them to stop raising tuition. Now, granted, there are some expenses that do increase over time, obviously technology, but, you can take a step back and take a look at what some of this increased tuition is going for, and you start seeing things like the pool that's installed at the top of the dormitory, or the rock wall climbing wall, or the elaborate dining hall options, and you start realizing that all of this, so much of this money goes to perks, and college is a business, just like everything else. So these colleges, whether they are public schools or private schools, it is in their best interest to make their educational offering as enticing as possible for a family.
Oh, my God, good points. So we have the parents and students have to dig a little deeper because there are other ways to get a college education at a respectable accredited school and not pay that insane amounts of money. You have to design in your life. You have to think about your future, not just to say I have a degree from this huge big-name school. If you want to work like in a certain field, see where where there's a company you want to work from. What school do they generally hire from? Because I'm telling you, I've seen that. I worked in HR. Companies hire from certain schools in certain areas. Can you lower the cost on your tuition by just going to one of those schools if you want to get hired by a certain employer? Now, what's the average age of the 44 million United States student loan borrowers? How many of them apply for it, and how many actually apply for college scholarships? Do people just right away? What's the average age of somebody who's applying for a student loan?
Here's what's so interesting about that is when you look into the data, this amount of we have $1.6 trillion of student loan debt. And this is not being held by, recent college graduates only. It's folks in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s, their 50s. And Denise, wow. We talk with families every day who, there could be family members in their 60s who are still paying back student loan debt. And that it doesn't have to be that way. No matter where someone is pursuing their education, there are private scholarships, and that's what I'm an expert in. I'm an expert in private scholarships. Those are scholarships from companies, organizations, individuals, foundations, scholarships that are not attached to specific educational institutions and therefore can be used anywhere that person is pursuing additional education. And what's exciting is that if someone does pursue these private scholarship opportunities, they can change the story. They can change the story, and that's why I do the work that I do.
Wow, I want to really hammer one more point through to our listeners. According to the Federal Reserve, in 2018, students took out about $29,800 in student loan debt. I wonder now if there's a mindset that people just automatically go toward the student loan. So they maybe if they can get a federal student loan, or they're just, how can I get a good student loan? And they're not even really considering scholarships that people are. And then I want to ask you before asking you, what are some ways that parents can help reduce this over $1 trillion in student loan debt? Is that the first option from what you're seeing? Are people even considering scholarships and as much volume as they're just going right to the student loan?
Yeah, so there's definitely a disconnect as far as the information have as on what type of scholarships really could be available for their student, for their son or daughter. Families, just like my family, we relied on the guidance of the counselors at the high school. And I want to first say I am a super fan of all college counselors. I'm a super fan of all guidance counselors. They work so hard, and I see their dedication every day. But all scholarships are not sent to schools. So the school might be giving the family whatever information they have, but unfortunately that is not all of the opportunities, and not by a long shot. And so if a family is only listening to whatever opportunities are presented to their high school, they unfortunately will probably have a gap in their educational pursuit, in their funding, and that's why so many families just resign themselves to signing their name to student loans. Now, what I wish that every family could hear right now, if you could hear one piece, that is this. Private scholarships, number one, are available not just to a graduating high school senior, but they are available from companies, organizations, foundations, to children, frankly, as young as 5 and 6 years old who are in kindergarten, meaning that every year that a child is in their primary or secondary education, they could already be accumulating a pile of money, substantial. I mean, 4 and 5 figures of money. And then anyone who's listening right now, listen to this. If you have a family member who is in college right now, and maybe you did have to sign your name to a portion of student loans, which I did as well, and with our family, we found what we could find, and then we sat down and we signed our name to student loans. If you have a student in college right now, know that there's tons of private scholarships that they can be applying for right now and be receiving money that you could pay off that student loan in advance. So if someone potentially can walk off a college campus, regardless of where they are in this scholarship pursuit, walk off a college campus with a degree and 0 student loan debt. And that becomes a game changer.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, my goodness. And then I know your niche is the scholarship route, but for our listeners, if you can afford to even work while you're going to school, or maybe you get your first 2 years through the community college, and then you transfer your credits over for a bachelor's degree. There's so many ways. If you say, I am not going into debt to get my degree, and then you go from there and figure out, like getting in touch with Jean O'Toole, Connections 101, you find out, how can I do that? I'm not going into debt to get my degree. I am not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. If I have to go with an employer and and my employer help pay a part of my tuition, I get the other through private scholarships, but I'm not going into debt. Make that a goal rather than I'll pay for college however I have to. Maybe it's a better
absolutely.
option.
And Denise, you mentioned that, and your listeners know that you have a lot of experience from HR, and I'm really glad that you mentioned the strategy, I consider it a strategy of, maybe starting at a community college and then transferring to that 4-year institution, because at the end of the day, no one will ever ask you, where did you start school? They only want to know, where did you finish? And
yes.
That is one of many, many strategies. I have a full chapter that I dedicate in the book about many ways to cut the bill beyond financial aid and scholarships. I'll give you another one right now. So there is, a tremendous way to cut the bill significantly is for families to seek out opportunities for their high school students to earn college credits in advance. The majority of community colleges in the United States do offer classes online and in person, and we're pretty much everything's online right now. But they offer opportunities for high school students to earn college credits at either a reduced cost or even free. And it would serve every family to take a look into what is available in your area. Many opportunities, again, can actually be done virtually, so you don't have to travel. And what's exciting about this is that a student can start their first year of undergraduate education coming to the table already with anywhere from 9 to 16, college credits. I've seen some students, start with even more. So they're starting already off the bat with enough college credits to consider them either a second semester freshman or a second-year student. You mentioned at the top of the show the cost of Wharton Business School right now in 2021. That is over $70,000 a year. So think about this. If a family has done their research and has looked into obtaining college credits in advance, then that young person who potentially could start at Wharton as a second-year student officially, because the credits they're bringing to the table, they're already saving their family and saving themselves over $70,000. That's real money.
Oh yeah. Because the people in their 60s still paying on their student loans, and if you like, my sister's a teacher, she had to go to college, but okay. So here, first I'm going to ask you about your book, and then I have to ask you a question. One thing I think that puts people off from applying for scholarship is the time investment. But before we get there, can you give off-the-shelf listeners an overview of scholarship strategies, finding and winning the money you need? Can you just tell us about some of the topics that are covered in the book?
Absolutely. So we consider this a resource tool, Denise. There's 25 clear strategies on how you can find more scholarships, how you can make this process easier for you and your family, and you can and help yourself identify which scholarships you have the best chances of winning. There are tons of opportunities out there, and none of us have the time to apply for all of them, and frankly, nor should you, because some are just frankly not worth your time, but some are very much worth your time. So we educate people on how to look at the opportunity, how to find the opportunities quick, and just streamline this process. If someone utilizes these strategies, they will absolutely find hundreds more scholarships than if they just work with their school guidance office. And then, as I mentioned, we also have a bonus chapter in the book that includes 15 ways to cut the college bill beyond scholarships and financial aid.
Is it? Let me ask you this: is it worth it? A lot of us do things online. Is it worth it to go on the internet? You get your book, Scholarship Strategies, Finding and Winning the Money You Need, and then somebody says, well, you know what, I want to check and see if there's whatever out here. is it worth it to go on the internet and you see these scholarships and you say, oh, let me apply there and let me apply there? Is that worth it, or is that like as far as time management, that's not the best way to really go about it? Are there like certain directories, et cetera, where you can find scholarships that you outline in your book?
Yes, and I actually have a lot of free resources that all of your listeners right now can even take advantage of. There is, if you go to connections101.com, there's several free PDFs that I encourage people to take advantage of. One is a simple how to get started guide. So because we want people to be empowered with this information so they can take charge of their life and pursue this easily and starting today. Second is a list of scholarship search websites. Download it, use it. There's every single website that we have listed on there is free to use, and they're national search websites. And the third thing we have on there are some tips to help families with any type of scholarship essays when and if they are required. Now, you are asking, which scholarships, are really worth your time. So here's a real simple tool that everyone can use right now as they are looking at opportunities. Number one, always prioritize first any scholarship where the criteria is specific and you just happen to meet that criteria. So, for example, if you were applying for scholarships, Denise, right? There's some very specific things that would be that you could apply for, right? Scholarships that based on writing, right? You're a very accomplished author. You have an incredible following with your show. And so, you have experience in new media, right? Podcasting and new media. So, and you're also an entrepreneur. So, those types of things that happen to specifically aligned with you, those would be topics that I would encourage if you were the scholarship seeker and I was working with you. We would actually do a money map with you and identify those items and others that specifically align with you. Right? Not everybody out there can say that they have a show, right? You do. So that's something that would be specific to you. Now, something that's a large category, like business, if you're maybe going to get an MBA or advanced degree, that's a larger category. So larger category scholarships we want to recognize are going to be scholarships where there's going to be a lot of people who are applying. And we still want to apply for them, but they shouldn't be at the top of your list, of your to-do list, because it's always a numbers game. Approximately how many people will be applying for this opportunity? We always want to direct our energy to where there will be fewer applicants, so we have the highest statistical chance of winning.
Okay. And then I have to ask you this. For our listeners, I have to ask you this question. So you're going to apply for a scholarship, and you say, oh, I got to write another essay, so I have to do an interview. How long does it take to apply for a scholarship on average? And do you cover any shortcuts and scholarship strategies, finding and winning the money you need when you have to do these essays? Do you offer any shortcuts? So how long on average does it take to apply for a scholarship? And I'm really looking at one with an essay. And do you share any shortcuts in your book?
Yes, I've got a super shortcut for everybody. So first off, here's the great news for everyone out there who wants to get into the community of scholarship seekers, right? Recognize that private scholarships, these are, again, scholarships from companies, organizations, foundations. These are not scholarships from a college or a university, and therefore they're not designed or are being evaluated by academia. These are corporate folks. These are nonprofit folks. These are people who are interested in, offering a scholarship because generally it aligns with their corporate mission. And when and if they are asking for an essay, they usually are asking for a very short piece of writing. When I say short piece of writing, Denise, it's usually specified to be roughly 500 words is the average amount of essay. So for anyone who's listening, that is like a half a page, all right? A half a page. So we're not talking about 5-page papers. We're not talking about extensive essays. We're talking about 500 words. Rarely will it be more than 500 words. The most I've ever seen for a private scholarship application was 1,500 words, and that was for, I believe, a grad school scholarship or postgraduate scholarship. But here's the good news as far as time goes. Really, you can be effective with your scholarship pursuit in roughly a half hour 3 times a week. This is the time that I ask it doesn't have to be a part-time job. Everyone asks me, does this have to be a part-time job? No, it does not. If you're spending part-time job time on this, then you're working hard. You're not working smart. This really can be done in a half hour 3 times a week. And here is a super secret for time saving. Everyone, and I talk about this in the book. I encourage everyone to use what I refer to as ready-to-go material. Ready-to-go material are any papers, projects, essays, poems, anything that you have written in the past. If you're a high school student, anything that you've written in the past 4 or 5 years. If you're an adult student, anything that you have written in the past 10 years. That's saved to your cloud, it's on a thumb drive, it's saved somewhere, whether it was for an assignment or it was just for personal writing. Maybe you wrote some poetry just because you enjoy writing poetry. Anything that you have actually spent time on and it's done, that is ready-to-go material. And here's what most people don't know, but they're going to learn it right now. Every scholarship that you apply to does not have to relate to what you want to do with your life. This is so important. I'm going to repeat it one more time. Every scholarship that you apply to does not have to relate to what you want to do with your life. So back to ready-to-go material. Maybe you are someone who wrote a poem, even if it was a few years ago, right? And it is saved on your computer somewhere. Well, I don't know why this is, but it's a fact that there happens to be a lot of poetry scholarships out there. I don't know why, but there are. You could take that poem that you wrote, whether it was for a class or just for personal expression, and take that poem and apply to any number of the tons of poetry scholarships out there. And those potential winnings pay for the engineering degree, pay for the business degree, pay for the grad school, pay for the nursing degree. It's very exciting that we can take material that we've already written and find a scholarship that connects to it and use that to expedite out many, many, many applications very quickly.
Wow. See, you shared some tips I hadn't even ever thought of. I remember a couple of years ago, somebody I heard said they went to college, got a degree, and they've never spent $1. And there was a lady who worked, I forget what she worked in college. She said she didn't spend nothing for her college, and her son didn't. And you hear this, and you're like, there's no way. And then you listen to you, and you're like, yeah, you know what? If you start maybe when your kid's in the 9th grade, and you just do 3 days a week, just a half an hour, 3 days a week, you might have that nailed by the time they graduate from high school. Another thing, there's so many things that you share and you cover to help others, but I wanted to just, for our listeners, cover as much as I can. Again, the book from Jean O'Toole is Scholarship Strategies, Finding and Winning the Money You Need. Jean, what is a money mission?
So the money mission is the goal that you are deciding that you are a scholarship seeker. You're not just hoping. A lot of people, unfortunately, approach the whole thing, hope for the best. And that is not mission oriented. That is not strategic. And so, if we are mission oriented, then the time that I'm using is meaningful. And I am saying to myself, you know what, my goal, my dream is worth it. I am worth it. And therefore, I am going to set aside not just, I'm going to set aside the half hour 3 times a week, and I'm going to put it I'm going to mark a little alarm even in my phone and say, you know what, this is my time. And the reason why I even start with that half hour 3 times a week, Denise, is because, the money mission, this pursuit of scholarships, it is a long game. This is not a sprint. It is absolutely a marathon, because any given scholarship, no matter who is giving the money away, they are not, we don't find out, right, if we won the scholarship the next week, right? In fact, the fastest that a scholarship will turn around is usually 6 weeks to 2 months. So with that said, right, and frankly, the majority of scholarships, we may not know if we've won them for about 4 months to 6 months. So with that said, we need to work with human nature. We need to work with the human nature of ourselves and give ourselves small, attainable goals every week, right? We've all heard, about the SMART goal process, making really small, attainable goals for ourselves each week to keep the wheels on the road of this process. So half hour 3 times a week, I tell families every week, here's what you're going to do in that half hour, that hour and a half total. One of those half hours, you'll spend with some research time. And again, there is a list of scholarship search engines. It's a free download at Connections 101. Take advantage of it. The other 2 pieces of your week should be with putting together one application where you had to maybe write those 500 words for that essay. We have, again, some essay tips on how to make those essays even stronger. It's another free download at Connections 101. That last half hour is finding a scholarship related to something from your ready-to-go material, poem, like we mentioned. Ultimately, if in that week, you should be able to expedite out. This is what I tell every family. Your goal should be to expedite out 2 applications a week, 2 applications that you hit send on. And if you were to do that, right, if you were to submit 2 every week, one is with material you've already written at some point in your life, then at this time next year, you would have applied to over 100 scholarships. This doesn't have to be hard. It's just committing to a little bit of time and energy each week. And in one of those research sessions, I hear about it all the time, where maybe a student or a parent, they start really looking at some of these scholarship opportunities and they get excited, they get inspired, and that half hour, maybe it turns into 45 minutes or an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
mm-hmm.
That's great that they were inspired to extend that time for themselves, but they didn't have to. And as soon as they hit that half hour, they were already able to give themselves that little pat on the back that I accomplished my goal. That is so key. And I know that you know this from working with people for all these years and all of the conversations you've had with your guests. We have to recognize that as people, we need to set up attainable, easy goals, easy goals for us to hit, to keep those wheels on the road. If I were to tell everybody right now, you know what, you're gonna, you should work on this, an hour 3 times a week. Well, maybe right now, because you're listening, maybe you're inspired, and maybe you say, okay, yeah, I'm jumping in. and I'm going to do an hour 3 times a week, and you're able to do it this week, but there will come a week where you're not able to make that happen. Because life happens. Life happens, right? And what do we know? What do we know when we have set a goal, we chose the goal, and we are not able to hit that goal? We get frustrated, and we quit.
Yeah. And then,
so we got to give ourselves easy goals to hit. But easy goals to hit means, long term, lots of applications being sent out.
Yeah. So because when we get frustrated, then all your time investment is wasted, and you tell people, don't bother with that, it doesn't work. But when you break it down into small steps, like you said, and you keep going. And this isn't something where you have to wait for a miracle to happen. It's just if you keep doing what you're saying, half hour, 3 times a week, you are going to yield results. You are going to yield results. There's so many things. I wanted to ask you next, is there a way for a student to begin locally to raise money for college and get scholarships?
Yeah. Oh, yes. And I'll tell you, this is where your time is so well spent. This is an incredible investment of time and energy if you start looking into what the local scholarship opportunities are. Because, again, this is a numbers game, and we need to look at the numbers. Well, where statistically are the numbers best in your favor? At the local level, right? If there's a scholarship that is being offered to students in your town or in your county, then those are opportunities where you're not competing against students from across the country, right? So you really want to pay attention to anything that could be happening locally. And here are 3 important questions that every family should ask. When they are looking at a local scholarship, and I will give all of your listeners a little bonus tip here in just a second on how to even uncover more of your local scholarship opportunities. But if you find out about a local scholarship, maybe the local real estate company down the road is giving away a $2,500 community service scholarship, right? So here's the questions that every family should ask. Who won last year? Why did they win? And who decides? Who won last year? Why did they win? And who decides? Right? So, and I'll tell you right now, the reason why, who won last year? Why did they win? Well, thanks to social media, it might be very easy for you to actually connect with that previous winner and find out a little bit more information about what their application was compiled of in order to catch the attention of these decision makers. But I'll tell you, the greatest question that you could spend some time and energy getting an answer to is who decides. Who decides? So every scholarship at the local level, there's going to be one of 2 decision makers. Either it's going to be someone, the decision maker is someone from your, high school, could be, a faculty member or a counselor or an administrator, someone from your school, or the decision maker is actually from that company or that organization. So let's take that example of the, real estate company that's giving away a community service scholarship. And maybe in this scenario, that company, they have their own employees from their company, have formed a committee, and they will decide on who gets the money. Well, it would be so powerful if, on your money mission, as a dedicated scholarship seeker, you were to actually reach out to that company and communicate 2 things. If you're taking notes, you want to take notes on this. Take note, number 1, first thing you communicate is gratitude. So, hi, it's been brought to my attention that your company puts together a scholarship for students in our area. Thank you. Thank you so much for doing that. It means a lot, right? Definitely communicate gratitude right off the bat. And then secondly, and this is the whole reason why you're calling, the second thing you're gonna say is you're gonna let them know, I'm really interested in potentially applying for this scholarship. What are you looking for in an ideal candidate? What are you looking for in an ideal candidate? This is a mic drop moment, Denise, for anybody who takes advantage of this, all right? Because I guarantee you that that organization has never received that phone call.
Yeah.
And now, in that moment, right? In that moment, the person on the other side of that line, they don't know anything about you. They don't know what grades you've done, what grades you've gotten, what you've done outside of the classroom. What do they know about you? They know that you are motivated, determined, and driven.
Yeah.
And pretty soon they might even be asking, "What's your name again?" Oh, and they're writing down your name and now emailing everybody in their committee. You'll never believe the phone call I just got from this young person. Right?
Yep.
Now, but there's magic there's like gold that happens in that moment, right? Gold that can happen in that moment. Because obviously, if there is, if the conversation continues, you find out some more extensive information about what they're really looking for, that's gold, because now, armed with that information, right, we know that information is powerful, and choice is the most powerful thing that we own. With that information, we can choose, that scholarship seeker can choose to take action to literally become the best qualified candidate for that money, but also, too, no matter what, even if it was a short conversation, that student has just made a connection with somebody at that company, and they have gotten a name. They got a name. Yeah, and now when they reach out in that application, even if the application is happening 6 months down the road, they can then say, I had a great I had a great conversation. I had a great conversation with Ms. Jones, and Ms. Jones shared with me the blah, 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 blah. And now every single one of those people on that scholarship committee recognizes that this applicant has gone above and beyond everybody else.
You know what? I'm telling you, we have less than 10 minutes. You are sharing, oh, my God, to anybody, any student, any parent, you got to check out this show and get this book. Just listening to you. But when I'm working in HR, I can tell you, with all the resumes, you see recruiters like, oh, my God, so many resumes to go through, other than using keywords and metadata. But when you call that company and you engage somebody in a conversation and you use their name in your cover letter, boy, does it stand out. I'm telling you, there are ways to differentiate yourself, and you just hit a serious humming ball out the park on that when you can use the name of somebody who's sitting at the table to make the decision on who's going to get the scholarship, and you're the only one who knows anybody's name who's on the decision makers. When you talk about going to the top of the heap, can you tell us, Jean? Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm so excited here listening to you. I'm so excited listening to you right now, Denise, because this is it. This is it. If people could take one piece away today, let it be this. All of us have very strategic actions that we take when we are pursuing internships, jobs, when we are trying to get that raise. Why then are young people not taking those same actions when it comes time to getting money with scholarships? If you can apply the same philosophy, you can separate yourself from the pile of other people.
I definitely want to ask you two more questions. We're coming short on time, but can you tell us what are scholarship clubs? What are they? What goes on in a scholarship club?
Yeah, I've been running scholarship clubs for years now, and what happens in a scholarship club is so what's exciting is that every scholarship that a student comes across may not be right for them, but it could be right for somebody else. A scholarship club could be as few as two friends who want to do this scholarship pursuit together, or it could be an entire school. And I've worked with situations where we have anywhere from 20 people to 70 people who are on a money mission. They're looking for scholarships. And what's exciting is this. Think about this. If your goal was to find 5 scholarships this week, right? So you go and you find 5 scholarships, and your friend also has found 5 scholarships this week. Well, bring that information together, and during a club, we'll put it together like in a spreadsheet or, in a way that the information can be shared. But you can find so many more scholarships faster. I always want people to be applying for scholarships, not spending all their time searching for scholarships. So, yeah, it's really, really exciting. I actually worked with here's a quick example, 20 students in New Jersey. I was working with their high school, and we met for 6 weeks. During their lunch hour, the students decided to eat at their desk, and we had a scholarship club meeting during their lunch hour 6 times, so 6 weeks. And those students each were to find 5 scholarships each week. And, of course, sometimes people are going to find the same scholarships. But all together, just in 6 weeks, Denise, that group of students who were in 9th grade through 12th grade, they collectively found for one another over 600 scholarships. It is unbelievable how, think about it. The fixed resource that every one of us has is time. We cannot create more time. So if we can actually work together to ultimately help one another find more scholarships faster, everyone will have so much more opportunity to reduce their college cost.
Wow. I think I have time just for maybe 1 or 2 more questions, but can you tell us about your presentations and how can students attend Connections one-on-one presentations?
Yeah, since COVID, we have actually brought our presentations virtually, and so, I've been giving these seminars about scholarship strategies and taken a proactive role to scholarship searching since 2008, and that's why we've had thousands and thousands of students attend our programs across the country. But now, no matter where you are in the country, you can attend our seminars. In fact, I give a free seminar once a month, and you can just log in and join us. And we do that because we want to help as many families as we possibly can. To find out about the next seminar, visit our Facebook page, which is Scholarship Strategies, and you'll see the dates of the upcoming free virtual scholarship seminars. I encourage you, jump on in. You will walk away with information to really get you going. But any school in the United States who is interested in a seminar, we're happy to even organize that for a school. A school or a group can reach out to us at scholarshipstrategiesteam@gmail.com. That's scholarshipstrategiesteam@gmail.com, and we're happy to organize a private virtual scholarship seminar for your school.
Wow. Now, what have readers been saying about scholarship strategies, finding and winning the money you need? What have you been hearing from readers about the book?
Well, it's been really exciting. We hear from families all across the country all the time who are so thrilled to be able to feel empowered, frankly, feeling like they actually know how to approach this process. We heard from a family recently in Texas who they had not attended one of my seminars. They had only picked up our book, reached out to us, and thanks to just even the strategies in the book, their daughter, who was a senior last year, she won roughly $130,000 in private scholarship monies, and the family was now working on their scholarship money mission with their 2 younger boys who were in elementary school. So they're already, they're getting started soon, and we love this. I mean, this is why we do this. We want to help people change the story, and so that how different could our lives in society be if, when someone is graduating from college, they're able to actually pursue this dream that they've had, and they can pursue it fully and not have to take on 2nd and 3rd jobs in order to pay student loans. What a great
point.
Yeah.
What a great point.
If the student loan debt, it's impacting whether or not people can buy houses, start families, start businesses. And the private scholarships are there. With some information, families can really, run with this. And it's so exciting when they do.
We are so grateful to have Jean O'Toole on here. Tell us where our listeners can get a copy of Scholarship Strategies, Finding and Winning the Money You Need, and is it in ebook and print, audio book? What formats is it in, and where can people get a copy of the book?
Yeah, thanks, Denise. Our book is available everywhere books are sold. It is available as an ebook and as a hard copy. You can get additional information, though, at connections101.com. And, I encourage everyone, that if you want to, in fact, we'll do this for your listeners right now. If anyone picks up a copy from Connections 101 from us directly, we will put in the notes that you heard about this from your show, from Off the Shelf, and I will give to that family 30 days free of ongoing scholarship support, which will include weekly scholarship alerts, weekly tips and strategies, and video scholarship reminders. I'm going to do that for anybody who mentions your show, and because together, Denise, I want us to help more families change the situation.
Wow. Oh, well, we want to thank you, Jean O'Toole, and just the show itself. You can hear her expertise. You can hear her knowledge, the research she's done, the family she's worked with. This is somebody who can offer you so many shortcuts that if you did it yourself, this is something I heard Tony Robbins say, you can either you can certainly go out and do it all yourself. He read a ton of books and did a lot of research work. Or you can go to somebody who's already done all of that and shortcut your way to success. You can do it from scratch yourself, or you can shortcut your way to success. So I encourage you to get a copy of Scholarship Strategies, Finding and Winning the Money You Need, whether it's for you, whether you might be an adult wanting to go back to school, whether it's for a child, a grandchild, niece, nephew, somebody you can help. It could be somebody going to school for the first time, and they're so excited to go, they're willing to take on the student loans, and you can help them avoid that and go and get a good education without going into debt. And please visit Jean O'Toole online at connections101.com. That's connections, the number 101.com, and visit her online. She just shared so much with us. Thank you so much, Jean, and to our listeners for tuning in to Off the Shelf. You guys come back next Saturday. We will have another awesome guest here for you at Off the Shelf Books Talk Radio, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday morning. I want to wish you again a happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Jean, I can't thank you enough. Thank you. And she's on the road, you guys. So thank you again, Jean. Go out and support her again, connections101.com, and get a copy of the scholarships book that Jean O'Toole has. You can order it online, connections101.com, where she made a phenomenal offer to us. You guys, I want to tell you, remember, as I always tell you, you are awesome, you are amazing, you're incredible, you're so awesome, you can figure out how to go to college without going into debt, because you called Jean O'Toole on Off the Shelf this morning. You are amazing, and I encourage you to go out and create a fabulous day for yourself today. Jean, I'll get the email for the show out when it finishes streaming. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day. Bye for now.
Bye, Denise. Thank you.